Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Focused and Fulfilled podcast. I'm your host, Althea Walters, and this is a space where we dive into powerful conversations on leadership, productivity, business growth, and the life lessons. And so today we're exploring a topic every business leader, every leader needs to understand, which is the economics of business growth. And joining me is my guest, Jeremy Reeves, business growth strategist. I'm going to call him a business growth strategist and expert in this area of working with businesses and leaders. And today we'll be uncovering what truly drives sustainable growth, how to avoid costly mistakes, and some practical strategies and steps to help you to thrive in business. So get ready for us to dive into our podcast episode today. And Jeremy, I'm so happy to have you. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. It's a pleasure and an honor to help everyone grow.
All right, wonderful. Jeremy, before we get into it, we're going to be talking about some tough topics today, but easy on the heart and the ears. Just tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into this area?
Sure, yeah. So I've been doing this just about 20 years now, I don't know, 18, 19, something in that range, and started off my career as a direct response copywriter and basically, wrote copy for people, everything from sales letters to websites to emails. I mean, upsells, everything you can, direct mail packages, everything you could possibly imagine, I've probably done.
Right.
So then from there, I actually joined a team to be their marketing director for 2 years in their kind of somewhere in the midst. And really, I want to go deeper. I became like over about 10 years of writing copy. I got really good at selling stuff, but I
Okay.
just wanted like, I had this passion. I want to go deeper, like learn, behind the scenes, like how businesses operated,
Right.
that sort of thing. And so thankfully I went in and I'm like, hey, throw me in the fire. I want to like pretty much run this business. I don't really care what the title is, like that's kind of
Yeah.
what I want to do. And true to his word, he absolutely did that. It was a very, very stressful 2 years, but it was also up until that point the most growth that I'd ever had in my life. So it was incredible. So then I left them and I started my own supplement company. And grew that really, really quickly. Got that up to $1 million a month in a like a three. We went from about 30,000 a month to $1 million a month in like a 3 month period, which
Great.
was just absolutely all of the emotions and yeah, as you can
I can
imagine, it was the
imagine.
most incredible thing. Yeah, but and it taught me again so much in going through that process, and actually sold that business to about 2 months ago now. And so now I'm pretty much back at it, and I've had a bunch of clients in between. I was a CEO for a company for an 8 figure, like 120-ish person company for like 6 months. In that space, I'm actually working with a client now, going like a full deep dive with them now. So I'm kind of back to helping entrepreneurs scale. My company now is called Scale Advisors. And so that's basically what we do: help people scale in a much easier way than most people are accustomed to. By just focusing on levers and doing less but more at the same time, like doing
Yeah.
less
I
results.
like
Yeah,
that. I'm going to come back to that part about doing less and really achieving more because a lot of people struggle with that concept, right?
right.
And making it a reality. So we're
Yeah.
going to come back to that. But
Yeah.
I heard your passion and your fire for discovering and trying to understand and going behind what makes a business work, right? Like
Mhm.
understanding the
Yeah.
levers, understanding those things. So, how would you describe what are those core levers that when talking about business growth, what are those core levers that we need to be keeping our eyes on?
Yep. So if you like most entrepreneurs that I know, revenue is generally like if you go to a mastermind, you're talking to people, everyone's, oh, I did this much last month or last year or whatever it is, or oh, my AOV, which is average order value, is X, or we got 100,000 visitors last month, or our cost per click is this, and they're all very surface level metrics.
Yeah.
They don't give you the full story about anything. They're great in a vacuum, right? And they give you one piece of information, but you're still missing,
Mhm.
the other 999 pieces of the puzzle. So I went through a process and I was like, I've always gotten really, really good results for clients. Yeah, I've done over $200 million total between like myself and client results. And I was trying to, I sat down one day and I'm like, why? Like, what is it? Like, what is it about my brain that sees through stuff that other people don't, right? And because it took me a while, everything, it came like kind of intuitively. I would just make decisions, wasn't really like with a framework or like I'm doing this for a specific reason. So I went back and like tried to think of everything I'd done and figure out like what is the core of what I was doing. And so really what I came up with was there's in any business, it doesn't matter what you're in. It doesn't matter if you're brick and mortar business, software, information, services, digital, whatever it is, physical products. It's all math, right? Business is just a big
Yeah.
math equation if you really think about it. And so the five levers are number one is contribution margin, which is essentially how much you make per sale, right? It's essentially when people say, "Oh, my margin is X." There's different types of margins. There's three main ones: gross margin, net margin, and contribution margin. But contribution margin is essentially if you take out the variable costs, it's the cost to deliver whatever it is. So if you sell for $100, you have let's just say $50 in cost that it takes to give that to the customer, then you have a contribution margin of 50%. So it's essentially what you actually keep
Right.
after all the expenses, right? And then the second one is LTV, so lifetime value, right? That is essentially just how much customers are worth. And most people miss the time frame part of this. They'll just say, "Oh, my LTV is, $5,000," and it's like, okay, but like when is that their full lifetime? Is that within 6 months, 12 months, 3 months, a
Right.
month? Like, what is that time frame? So that's super, super important. The next one is cash velocity. So that's essentially a lot of these are like accounting terms. So there's like little nuances here and there, but that's essentially just when you put a dollar out, right? When you put a dollar into whatever advertising that you're doing, how long does it take for that dollar to come back around into your bank account as profit, right? That's so like it's you have inventory costs, so maybe you're paying upfront for inventory. So that now you're say that's whatever a month, right? So now you're at 30 days, and then you spend to acquire a customer, and let's just say that you break even on day one, so that now there's no change there. But then with the payment cycle, maybe the payment it takes or after let's just say after expenses, it adds another 30 days. So your cash velocity would be 60 days, right? So it's essentially just how fast you get the money back from your investment of acquiring customers to then put into more customers.
Okay.
Then the next one is acquisition efficiency. So this one's kind of a bigger one. It kind of encompasses a lot of different things, right? So like you're kind of including just how efficient you are at acquiring customers, right? So some people may have a great day one return on ad spend, which is great, but like maybe their conversions are really low, right? So they like that's kind of the constraint within the acquisition efficiency. So it's not like a very specific like you can track it like the other ones, but it's a little bit more of an overall encompassing term. And then the last one is operational scalability, and that's just essentially like a lot of people ask the question: if you doubled your sales tomorrow, what would break? Right. That's kind of that's the one part of it, and that's on the operational side, the fulfillment side. Like what's your capacity? What capacity you at?
Right.
And Yeah, so that's that, and then essentially the other one is operating leverage. The other kind of piece of this is operating leverage, and that's essentially how much you keep after your fixed expenses, which we can kind of get into later if it comes up. But yeah, those are the five levers, and I've just found that every other question, every strategy, every tactic, everything you do in business fits under one of those kind of five
Levers.
pillars or levers, whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting. And I realize you did say that, business owners, businesses, sometimes they focus on the very surface level KPIs, those
Mhm.
key performance indicators. So we lose track of
Yeah.
what we should really be tracking. What would you say, is the one that you find from this lever that persons may not pay attention to? They pay
Yeah,
attention to
like
the least.
yeah, the one most people ignore, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say probably lifetime value.
Uh,
Um, because at least in my experience, right, it's probably gonna, I would guess it's probably gonna be different for different industries.
right.
But I'm just been in a lot of different industries, and I would say probably in most cases it's lifetime value, and it's because everyone is focused on like more leads, more customers. It's just more, right? I've just
Mm-hmm.
seen it so many times, and they pay so much to acquire these customers. And maybe you break even on the front end, maybe you actually lose a little bit on the front end, maybe you gain a little bit on the front end. But even if you have 150 200% ROAS, on the return on ad spend, on the actual first sale, it's still a very low margin after your expenses and everything. It's still a very low margin, and that's generally where most people stop. And it's like, you don't understand, if you do the math and you have people, if you have an ascension value that goes up, and a customer ascension process that takes them from whatever it is, $100 sale to a $500 sale to a $10,000 sale or whatever it is. You just The incremental profit that you get, because there's no in most businesses, the acquisition is the most expensive part,
Right.
right? Service businesses, it's a little bit different usually, but that's the most expensive part, and that's not there for back end sales. So you're, in most cases, you're either getting the full contribution margins, which
Mm-hmm.
sits like a 50% or whatever margin, and there's no other big expense, right? So yeah, that's what I would say is
Is
the
the
one
least
that
one.
most. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's that. And I really do that because when I do audits on companies, that's generally where my brain goes, is like, let's look at that first, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
Great. Thanks for that answer. So, Jeremy, we have been talking about businesses and growth and scale, but explain to me in simple terms what scaling your business mean.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think it actually might be a little bit different for everyone, right? For me personally, scaling it, I'll say scaling it properly. That's because a
Yes.
lot of people can scale a business, not a lot of
True.
people can scale it. Yeah, the amount of people that I know that are doing high seven figures, eight figures, multiple eight figures, a lot of them, I would say probably at least 30%, probably more realistically, more like 50, sometimes even higher.
Hmm.
Their actual profit actually goes down as they scale up higher. So it's like, I've had so many conversations where it's like, my business used to be 3 million and I was bringing home 1.5 million net profit that I could actually, like distributable cash. And
Right.
now I'm at 10 million, but I'm only profiting 1 million. And it's like, what happened to my business? And again,
Exactly.
a lot of times it comes back to lifetime value. Um, so yeah, so for me, scaling it properly is really that you're putting more of an emphasis on the profit side and not the revenue side. Because I mean, most people, me especially, but most people that I talk to would rather a business that does, let's just say, 2 million in revenue and a million in net profit versus something that does, 10 million in revenue and 1 million in net profit, right? Because it's just, there's so much less, like the lower you are, there's less complexity, there's less stress, and if you're still making the profit. So that's kind of how I do it, is like, it really depends on the person. If you're in hyper growth mode and you want to sell your business, that's going to shift it a little bit differently. There are different kind of stages for when you're selling a business. Usually it's like hyper growth up until maybe 2 years or so out from selling it, and then you put a huge focus on profit. So you're already up here, and then you add the profit to then get a higher multiple to sell it. Other people, it's more of a lifestyle business, so they actually don't even want to scale, and it's like,
Yeah.
in those cases, and I know tons of people like that. I'm more on that side of things too now, at least at this point in my life.
Okay, right.
And yeah, so for me, I definitely fall under the, I would rather, net $1 million, and have $1.5 million, $2 million business versus net. For me, honestly, I would rather that than net 2 million with a $10 or $10 million business. It depends on where you're at in your lifestyle, what matters most to you. But that actually is really important because, um, unless you're clear on what you want,
Yeah.
I've talked to so many people over the years, and it's like, I want to scale, I want to scale, and I want to scale, and then you say, well, why? And they're like, Because that's what everyone says, and I'm
Exactly,
like,
because it's a
what?
buzzword,
Yeah,
It
right.
becomes a part
Yeah,
of the language and everybody wants to be a part of it. Which brings me to my
right.
next question, because I'm curious as to if it is that, a business owner or a business is scaling, what do they need and who do they need? Because scaling takes a lot of effort. So if you had to say
Yes.
what are the top three things that you need to focus on to scale, what would
Mm.
those be?
That's a really good question. I like that one. Okay, so I would say you need number one, you need basically a scalable offer, right? So a very sexy offer that
Yeah,
it delivers a big pain point, right? It has enough of a market, which most people, like most markets, are big enough to be good enough for everyone. There are some very niche markets, that like maybe the
right,
total addressable market is only like a little bit, but it's kind of rare. So you have to have a hungry market. So that's number one, and that's like you basically you're solving a big pain point, right? And you're solving it in a unique way, and in a way that gets better results, essentially, right?
right.
The second thing I would say is going back to lifetime value. So you have a customer ascension path because it's like a giant balloon for your profit. Like if your profit's here, lifetime value really just like you like imagine filling up a balloon and the balloon just goes right.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of it. So again, lifetime value, a customer ascension process where it's a very structured. You're taking them from the initial pain point that brought them in. Let's just say back pain. Just random example off the top of my head because I have back pain right
Right.
now. So it's like something you have some new thing that's going to help them with their back pain. It gets them all excited. That gets them in the door. So that's step number one. The second step is okay. Well, once we've fixed that specific problem that they came in for, what else can we help them with, right? And there's different ways to do that. Sometimes it's if you're in more of a like if you're a big name, if you're someone that people want to be around,
Right.
people will pay for proximity. So they'll pay just to be with you, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's they want to expand on those benefits. So they don't want to, you've taken them out of the negative cycle of pain, and now they're like, oh my god, I can walk again, I can run again, I can lift weights again. And then it's like, okay, great, well, now that you feel better, maybe we move you up into like a whole body optimization, right? So and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, right? And then so basically customer centered process. And then i would say I would say for the third one, and it may seem like a strange answer, uh, I would say proper priorities, proper like resource allocation, right? Because most people just, you have the sexy offer, you have the lifetime value, which is going to give you the metrics that you need, right? So now, what else do you need? You need to be spending your time on the right things, right? Because if you have those things and you
Absolutely.
have this, yeah, like you have this monster of an offer, but you're focused on, Instagram views or, all these things that really don't matter. You're trying to like,
Yeah.
pretty up your website or something like that when you're getting a 3 times ROI within 30 days or something like that. It's like, no, stop doing that. Put it back
Mismatched
into the fire that you
alignments.
already have going. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've just seen it again so many times that people are just spending their time on the wrong things.
Yeah. I
So
can
yeah,
see that.
I would say those three. Yeah.
Those three were very good, Jeremy. I like them. They make sense. And so
Hmm.
I think that as sometimes we get caught up in focusing on the wrong things, as you're saying, we have an
Hmm.
objective.
Yeah.
We want to scale. We want to do different things as business owners. Businesses want to do different things, and we kept on being drowned out with things that are not important or priority.
Right. Yes.
So thank you.
Yep.
Earlier,
Yep.
you said that you were able to grow a company from 30K per $30,000 to $1 million, right?
Yep.
How did that happen? How did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was. I'm kind of a trend guy. I like to, for some reason, however my brain is wired, I tend to see trends in things, even if it's
Yeah,
not something that I'm like, like an expert in, like business. something like I don't know, politics, which I don't really care much about politics, but like I'll see things that are happening just from like some random bits and conversations, little pieces here and there, and it's like I can kind of see what's happening, right? And so that was a big part of it. It was during COVID. It was at the start of COVID. It was what was this, March 2020. So it
Right.
was it was every whole world's freaking out. I can't remember if people were home at that point yet, where everyone was in lockdown. I can't remember, but it was a new. So the product was for constipation, but my product was using prebiotics, which back then they were barely heard of, and so there's a good unique mechanism. It was a unique solution to a big problem that a lot of people have, right? Um, so that comes back to like the three things you need, right? It was like the sexy offer. And there's a lot that goes in. I have a whole like 10-step framework for building scalable offer, but uh, it was that. I would say probably the next biggest thing would be the connections that I had. So I've been before that I was in the health space for probably about 10 years, and I built up a lot of connections. And so that was the driving force of just building your reputation. I spent the whatever 10 years or so before that, 12 years before that, really cultivating relationships, building my network, building my reputation. I remembered going back earlier in my career, doing things that I knew were going to hurt me then, right? But were going to help that reputation in the industry. And so after building up all that goodwill for 10, 12 years, I
Right.
was for lack of a better word, able to then like cash in my chips essentially.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, so it was a market that I'd already been in. I knew how to scale things. I knew, and even like I talk about like the economics, right? So like I had the sexy offer and the proper economics. And then for me, the third one, I already knew like priorities, what I should be working on. So for me, that third piece was really the connections. I think um, I think I would have gotten to a similar place even without that,
Hmm.
but that was like
Helped
I
you
knew I
to.
was friends with all the big people in the industry, and it was just like, hey guys, we have a monster here. Let's
Yeah.
just get everyone corralled and everyone send for it, and and so it was a fun and just absolutely insane time.
Great. Because I think, it would have required a lot. And what about mindset? To
Mhm.
take you from 30,000 US dollars per month to
Right.
a million, what about mindset in that space? How important?
Oh yeah, I mean, mindset's everything, honestly. Like as much as I talk about, it's the way that I see it is like if you think of like I don't know, like those Russian stacking dolls or something like that.
Right.
There's like tactics which are at the point. Behind that, like you need the strategy to be able to know what tactics to do. Underneath the strategy, you need the economics, right? Because the economics dictate what strategy, which dictates what tactics. Below that is mindset, and that mindset to me is the foundation for absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I have lost so much money because of bad mindset in my earlier years.
Hmm.
I definitely had a bad mindset for the first I don't know, probably 5 to 8 business years in business, and then it started like I was starting to make a lot of the same mistakes, and I started to become aware of my own kind of self-destructive patterns that I had from childhood. And so I spent years and so much money like getting doing like consulting with like mindset coaches and reading books and doing exercises and all sorts of things because it's just most of it I would say comes down to limiting beliefs and just it's the confidence people have in themselves to do something or not be able to do something. um, it just holds so many people back where they don't even know what's possible. And it's kind of like the 4 minute mile. Like no one could run faster than 4 minutes. And then one guy did. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 everybody else could. Well, not
Yeah.
everyone else. It's an incredibly hard feat, but, but,
Yeah.
it's that same mindset. Like it really, if you have limiting beliefs, it literally blocks your brain for coming up with the ideas that you need to get to the next level.
Great.
So yeah, my mindset is everything. And I'm in no means a mindset coach. I recommend
Yes.
that to every single person that I work with. I'll point it out to people. I'm actually working with that client now, where there's similar things like that going on, and I always try to spot that and then tell them my story. Like, look, I'm not saying this to like make you feel bad. It's just that I've noticed some patterns. I can tell you right now, those patterns are preventing you from like seeing the bigger picture, having a bigger vision for this business.
Right.
Yeah, so mindset
Okay.
is everything.
Great. Very interesting story. I'm really grateful for you sharing that with us. One of the things that I notice with business owners is that, and businesses, when you chase growth, right? And we want to scale and we're pushing and we're going for growth, we end up burning out ourselves and burning out our teams. What
Mm-hmm.
tip do you have? Do you notice that in your industry? And what can you say
Mm-hmm.
persons can do to kind of either prevent it or minimize it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I see it a lot. I would say the well, actually, I would say the cause of that. I always look for like what is the actual what is the reason this is happening. I always try to look for the why, the cause,
Yeah,
that sort of thing, because it gets you to the end answer so much faster. In most cases, I think it's just people want to be busy, right? And I've like I just see so many people that are so busy doing nothing, right?
yeah,
It's crazy. Like you go to work, and yeah, I mean the same thing with employees. I talk about. I'm in the process of writing a book now, and was recently writing on the kind of employee part of it. Like most, when I go into businesses, most employees are like 30 to like maybe 50% efficient in what they're doing, and it's like if you just and it comes back to priorities then. It really, you have to get out of this mindset that you need to do 1,000 different things.
right.
It is not. You have to look for what are the dominoes, and that's where the five levers come in, because they point you to the dominoes, of like, hey, instead of doing these 77 projects over here, what if we just did these two, and we can see through the math that if we did, if we made this go to here and if we made this go to here, it's going to add 50% or 100% or 200% or whatever more profit. That I think it's a big, it creates a big downstream effect when you do that, because when you're not doing that, everyone is just kind of flailing around doing a bunch of things, trying to make themselves look busy. But it doesn't actually change anything, so everyone gets burnt out. There's no proper structure. There's a lot of people, a lot of employees. Everyone should have like at least a defined lane of, oh sorry, I
Right.
just knocked the kind of a defined lane of what they do. And in so many companies, everyone is kind of just doing everything. There's no KPIs. There's no like, hey, when I sit down to work, I do this. Have the KPIs. These are what I'm being reviewed on. There's a KPI dashboard that I have that my manager can check, make sure I'm hitting the boxes. There's performance reviews that go like on a quarterly basis or every 6 months or whatever you do, that look at those KPIs and say, oh, great, you're hired for X. Your job, your responsibility is to make these numbers better. You either did that or you didn't,
Yeah.
right? It's really a lot of people, they come to me and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should like hire this person or fire this person or promote this person. And I'm like, well, like show me their
Yeah.
performance review. What are
Yeah.
they being
What's the
measured on, and how
KPI
do they do?
saying?
Yeah, yeah. It's honestly a very, like, employees. It's a very simple answer. Usually,
Right.
you hire them to do a specific thing. You track like whatever metrics make the most sense for that role, right? You track them, and then it's just a yes or no answer. Are they doing the job or are they not? You know?
Exactly.
Um, yeah. So yeah, like I think it's a combination of those two things in terms of like people chase growth. I think because of just they think I'm just supposed to be doing that. Like I'm a business
Yeah.
owner, therefore I have to chase growth. And it's like, well, no, if you're doing, let's just say 5 million right now and you're making a million or whatever it is, right? What, again, it comes back to what I said earlier. What do you want? Do you even want any more money? Like maybe you're set for life and money doesn't really matter to you. Maybe you're now at a point where it makes a big impact for you to hire people, and then it's like, okay, like if that's what makes you feel good, and you can add more employees to your business without kind of damaging the health of the business, right? Then great, that's what means something to you, right? If you want to make the same amount but work less, then it's like, great, okay, well, let's figure out what are those levers, what are those priorities that you need to do where you can keep growing, but it reduces the stress by like half. Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a mix of like the mindset of like just thinking that you have to be this certain type of business because that's what's expected of you, or that's what you read, on a blog or you heard in a podcast or whatever. It's like, no, no, come back to what you want. And
Hmm.
that's it. That should drive every single decision in your entire business. What do you want? It's your business. And then everything else
Absolutely.
falls under that. Yeah. So I don't know if
Absolutely.
I kind of went a little bit in a circle. I don't know
No,
if
no,
that
I
directly
totally
answered the
got
question.
it because you brought me right back to the question that I wanted to ask about doing less and achieving more. Because
Mm,
I believe that, that is something substantial that we can all pay attention to. It goes back to, hey, are
mm.
we burning out ourselves too much? Are we not focusing on our priorities? So talk to us about doing less and achieving more.
Yeah. So, and you'll see a lot of this all comes back to the same core. So the way that I go about it is really just using the five levers, right? And you have like the different metrics kind of within those levers.
Right.
You use those levers to find whatever your biggest constraint in the business is, right? So let's just say that you're making tons of sales, but your contribution margin is really low. So one example of that is I'm working with a client now, and she's making well, I won't say any numbers, but she's making in the multiple six figures of this one service, and
Right.
her margin is only 12.5% on
Mhm.
on the service because basically she's outsourcing that to basic contractors. They keep whatever that is, 87.5%. She keeps 12.5. And I did the math the other day, and I'm like, we can add like $400,000 in profit if we just get that 12.5%, instead of outsourcing it to other people, bring those people in house, right?
Mhm.
Maybe charge a little bit more, and we can probably bring that margin from 12.5% up to like 60. So it's like almost like a 5x on what she's netting right now, which would be
Oh,
several $100,000, right?
wow.
So it's like when you know how to look at the numbers and you see that and you spot that, and you're like, wow, why would we do these 15 other things? And in this person's, it would about double the business, right? They could do it in less than a month, right? If they just like put all their resources, let's just do this for 1 month, they could double the business, right? And that's one of the things I'm going to be helping them with.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that. Like it's just you have to find where the constraints are
Hmm.
and look and then do the math of like, hey, if we remove that constraint, how does that change our numbers? And in most cases, you can do so much less.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that. Um, Maybe you look at your labor to revenue ratio, and you look it up, and you can do it with like ChatGPT. Say it's $1 million revenue and $300,000 in employees, like labor. That in most businesses should be more in like the 15, maybe 20% range. So you can drop that down. It's like in that example, I think you would save 50%, like whatever, $100,000 or something like that,
Mhm.
right? So you're basically going from 300,000 to 400. So like it's a 33% increase in profit, just by making that one change. And it's like when you start looking for those big needle movers, those levers,
Yeah.
you don't have to post 4,000 different pieces of content a day and be doing a bunch of CRO and hiring people that you don't even know if they're making any money for the business. And you can just
Exactly.
focus on like what actually matters.
Oh,
So yeah,
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 that was clear.
it's really just about finding the constraint,
Right.
like the one constraint, not the 47 constraints, but the one,
But the
and
one
then
that
and
makes
then
a
seeing
difference
like,
and the one that we should be
yeah, yeah,
managing. Thanks for that explanation.
Mhm.
Jeremy, we've been talking about business growth, scaling, doing too much, focusing on the right levers, etc. But as we're thinking about growth in businesses and putting businesses on the right track, what is one last tip that you would like to leave with my audience?
I would say um, simplify everything that you can, and really like I've mentioned this in different ways, but it all comes down if you want to get, everyone is here, like they're in a certain place and they want to be in a certain different place. That probably applies to 99.9% of people listening to this, unless you're, an enlightened being and you have absolutely no, like, you don't even care about what happens and you're kind of just content sitting in a room, on a chair or whatever for the rest of your life. Entrepreneurs generally, we have goals, right? We are here, we want to be here. The fastest way to do that is to really just focus, right? Like, look at all the things you're doing. Like, I really urge everyone listening to this to go in whatever software, whatever system that you're using to look at your priorities.
Right.
Look at everything and be like, if we had to choose for the next quarter, if we had to choose one single project to do, that would whatever result you're looking to, one project that gets us to X result, what would that be? Like, just ask that question. And when you first ask it, most people aren't going to get the answer immediately, right? This is going to be something that if you let it sit in your brain, eventually, maybe it's later that day, you go on a walk, it pops in your head, you talk to a friend, it pops in your head, whatever it is. Eventually, that answer is going to come to you, and you're just going to unlock a new level of growth
Right.
because again, it comes back to finding the constraints and using the levers to do that, and then just focusing. Focus all your resources on that one big domino. That when you do that one, it knocks
Mhm.
down 10 other
The
ones.
others.
That's yeah. That so
Right.
so I guess the one answer there would be just be focus, which I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone's heard a thousand times.
I heard
Hopefully
focus and I
with
heard simplify and focus.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess they're kind of two sides of the same coin almost.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everyone's heard that before, right? But hopefully, hearing it with the context of everything else I
Right.
said, hopefully that makes a little bit of a difference. I'm just saying it absolutely changed my life when I started doing that, and every time I work with clients, it does the same thing because I'm not going to them saying, hey, we have to do 9,000 different projects. It's like, hey, look, if we just do this one single thing,
Right.
we're going to add X amount to the bottom line. Let's just do that, and then once we do that, give it a couple weeks, see if a new constraint opens up, and then we'll find it. We'll do it again. That's really
What it
that's
is.
really just how.
Wow.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
I think that was a very fabulous tip. It is, as you said, it is simple, but it is effective in terms of focusing.
Mhm.
So I'm happy about that. Jeremy, where can we find you? Where is your contact information? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So if you want to learn about me, just go to scaleadvisors.com. So I have all sorts of stuff on there. I have a podcast called Scalable Growth that you can listen to. I have services if you're looking for help with someone like me to help you scale. And again, like scale properly, profitably,
Right.
sustainably, not all the hacks and all the tactics that burn out in like a month. And yeah, I'm writing a book that'll be coming out in a couple months. I'm going to be having products on there. So yeah, I mean, the website has everything that'll, everyone will be in a different stage in their business. Some people just, hey, I want to go right to services. Some people are like, no, I just want to, get on his email list. I do an email list too that has actually like really good information, not just like pitching you every day.
Oh,
Uh, and yeah, and so yeah, whatever stage you're in, whether you just need free stuff, whether you're kind of in that mode where you're doing it yourself with products, whether you have a bigger business and need someone to help you implement for you or coach you or whatever that is, then there's that. So there's kind of something for everyone on all stages of the path.
okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Well, we have come to the end of our podcast, and we just want to say, what a powerful conversation with Jeremy on business growth, business strategies, and I truly enjoyed the discussion. Some things were an eye opener, and I trust that my audience, you would have also enjoyed it and learned from it. We've seen that true growth isn't about just chasing revenues, but understanding the numbers, because business is maths, right? Making smarter decisions and building the foundation and the levers, understanding the levers as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, my audience, so share it with another business owner, another business leader, so that we can all learn and grow together. And until next time, keep it focused and stay fulfilled. Thank you very much and see you again on Focused and Fulfilled podcast.